Hi everyone, Tony from Hack the Movies here, and the show that I've been on for the last 2 years just got canceled. The Relic is one of my favorite 90s creature features. The movie came out during that post-Jurassic Park window of time. You know what I'm talking about, when B movies were suddenly given the A-list treatment. Dinosaur movies before Jurassic Park used to look like this. And then after, they look like this. Alien invasion movies used to look like this. And then after, they look like this. And mutant monster movies used to look like this.
Get into these tunnels!
And then they looked like this. I feel like The Relic kind of gets overlooked these days. It wasn't a super big hit when it came out, and it hasn't really achieved cult status as far as I can tell, but it's a solid flick. It started off as a novel by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. It was the first in the Special Agent Pendergast series, a series that's apparently still going strong to this day. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tony from Hack the Movies, why didn't the Special Agent Pendergast series of films take off like the novels did? I'm not really sure what the answer is, but it might have something to do with Special Agent Pendergast not being in the film. Instead, we got a movie from the director of 2 Van Damme films, a few actors from Kindergarten Cop, James Whitmore, and his ex-wife. Enough backstory, let's pop this VHS in and get to it.
In celebration of the 25th anniversary of The Godfather, all 3 films within the series are now available in widescreen and have been digitally remastered with THX certification.
All 3 Godfather films? I better run to my local video store and pick those up. Oh, I'm in my local video store. And I have the Godfather collection right here. Anyway, the movie starts with a guy named John Whitney witnessing a ritual being done by some tribe. They make him eat these leaves with red fungus on them, and then he freaks out. Next, we have him begging a dude to take some crates off a ship headed to the States, and he gets ignored. He sneaks on the ship to get his crates, but it turns out they were never loaded. He's not too happy about it. Yeah, he's probably gonna be the monster. The ship shows up in Chicago, and the police, led by Tom Sizemore, find the entire crew decapitated, except for James Whitney. He's totally the monster. And then we meet Penelope Ann Miller's character. She's the museum's evolutionary biologist, and she's looking for a grant for something she's working on. She's stressed out, though, because her co-worker is looking to get the grant for himself. James Whitmore shows up and tells her they got Whitney's crates. All they had in them was a broken relic and those leaves that made him freak out. Remember that guy who got eaten by the raptor at the beginning of Jurassic Park? Well, he shows up in this as a security guard who's enjoying a marijuana cigarette.
Johnson, Davis, that you?
Man, that guy can't catch a break. Anyway, while this is happening, there's 2 kids who snuck into the museum at night. I only bring them up because the movie makes it seem like the monster kills them. But then later there's a line of dialogue about how they're still alive and they talk to the police about what they saw. So, I think they might have died in the original cut. And then I guess a producer or something decided to insert a line about how they were still alive. I don't know. It's a weird scene that leads to almost nothing because they survive, so I thought I'd bring it up because it's weird. Tom Sizemore investigates the crime scene, and I should mention his character is extremely superstitious. There's a whole superstition running theme in this film. The relic and the monster Cathoga are based on the tribe's superstition, and there's a superstition gala happening at the museum. Anyway, one of the cops suggests that the black security guard had it coming because he smoked a marijuana cigarette.
There's a half-burnt joint on the floor. Seems our boy was having a little pot on the potty.
Pot's a misdemeanor. The
Decapitation seems a bit severe.
Let's move on. You're probably wondering how the monster knew to travel to the museum and how he's able to move around the building as if he's already been there before and has the layout memorized in his head. These are questions that'll be answered in due time. Whitney's the monster! This leads to our next scene where our main characters talk about the crates that were delivered. They have this conversation in Whitney's office, which happened to be vandalized. Why would the monster care about some guy's office? Well, that's just a mystery you'll have to wait to... Whitney's the monster! The next scene is great. The coroner is a character who only shows up once, but she goes full on non-stop with the zingers. A lot of the supporting characters in this movie have a lot of unique quirks and stuff that makes them stand out. This chick loves decapitation jokes.
Height 5'4", with his head maybe 6'1", weight 160, give or take, if you know what I mean. Hey, wait a minute, this brain's light, even for a man.
So they find out the security guard had his hypothalamus removed from his brain, and then it turns out all the decapitated heads on the ship had the same thing happen to them. While the main characters are talking about rituals, 2 cops are in the tunnels below the museum and end up killing a totally innocent man. They try to pin the murders on him and bring up his former criminal history to justify using excessive force and taking his life. Yeah. Anyway, Penelope Ann Miller finds out that a beetle ate one of those leaves and it turned into a big monster. Kinda like Whitney, but we don't know that yet. So cut to the night of the gala and all hell breaks loose. The monster, for some reason, decides to not be stealthy anymore and just starts killing people left and right. It's here we find out that it needs to eat the fungus on the leaves to sustain itself. The fungus is also what mutated it. It's like a virus that rewrites your cells and turns them more reptilian. Anyway, he goes on a killing spree and it's super gory and awesome. And I gotta say, Stan Winston knocked it out of the park like he usually did with the puppet and the practical effects. They look great. And actually, the CGI for the time still looks pretty decent. They're pretty smart and keep the monster mostly in the dark, which helps conceal some of the smooth textures on it. If I had to rank this 90s CGI, I'd have to place it below Jurassic Park, but above Species and Spawn. Okay, so the monster kills a bunch of people, and it leads to my favorite death in the movie. When this movie came out, it was the rare example of my grandfather and mom not taking me to an R-rated movie. I forget why. I think I might have been at a friend's or something and they decided to go see it. They told me about this scene and it piqued my interest. I had to wait and wait for this VHS to come out to finally see it. And it was totally worth it. It's awesome.
Hold on!
So, to wrap this up, they find out the monster started as Whitney, which is a shock to absolutely no one. He needs the leaves to survive and continue changing, and if he can't get them, he sustains himself with people's hypothalamuses. There's a cat and mouse chase through the tunnels, and it leads to an explosive finale. My only issue with the ending, other than the CGI monster looking bad when it's on fire, is this line the character says to the monster before it dies.
You go to hell!
It's kind of mean. That guy didn't choose to be a monster. He doesn't want to do any of this. I mean, his body chemistry was rewritten on a cellular level. He's not in charge of his actions. You should say something like, "I'm so sorry this happened to you. I wish I didn't have to kill you. Get well soon." Not go to hell, that's just mean. So, to sum everything up, this movie is awesome. The effects are top notch for the time, and the setting is great. They actually got to use the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago. This could have easily been a cheap direct-to-video movie that took place on a fake-looking soundstage, and show the monster way too much. But this movie does a great job of being bigger than it has to be. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I highly recommend it, and I think it needs to finally get the appreciation it deserves. Anyway, thanks for watching this review. I guess I'm gonna do a lot more reviews on this channel now that I'm no longer on a movie review show, which is fine. There were a lot of movies we didn't get to, so The Relic was one of them. I hope you enjoyed it. I have other things coming. This spooky light is for something else, which you might see in the future. I don't know. Yeah, so like, share, subscribe. Check out my Patreon. I got cool bonus stuff on there. I also hint to upcoming videos coming out. Buy a t-shirt. Plenty of t-shirts. Great designs. They look good on you. And OnlyFans, if you're into it. Bye!